Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive. This time we're going to be really uncovering all the nuances of the Noah's Ark story.
Yeah.
And we're going to be looking at excerpts from Genesis,
Right.
chapters 6 through 9,
Yeah.
using the NSG version.
Okay.
And we've also got some supplementary texts just to add a few extra layers
Okay, cool.
to this already epic tale.
Sounds good.
And trust me,
Yeah.
this is way more
Oh, yeah.
than just a children's story.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to see that right from the start.
Yeah, it's not just about a big boat and some animals.
Right.
There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, we're going to explore why a certain animals boarded in pairs while others came in sevens.
Right. And we'll even dive into that incident with Noah and his sons after the flood.
Ooh.
It's not quite the picture-perfect ending you might expect.
I'm intrigued already.
Yeah.
Okay, so the story starts with a pretty grim picture of humanity.
Yeah.
Genesis paints a world drowning in evil and violence, with people constantly engaging in wicked deeds and thoughts.
It really emphasizes how widespread this corruption was.
Right.
It wasn't just a few bad apples. This
Yeah.
was a systemic issue.
Well-
And the text tells us it deeply saddened God.
So that's where Noah comes in.
Right.
He's described as a righteous man.
Yep.
A beacon of faithfulness amidst all this darkness.
Exactly.
It's this stark contrast that makes him stand out.
Precisely. It's crucial to understand that Noah represents a glimmer of hope in this really bleak landscape.
Okay.
And it's this quality that leads God to choose him for a monumental task,
Right.
building the ark to preserve life on earth.
And the ark itself is fascinating.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What strikes me is the level of detail in God's instructions to Noah.
Oh, yeah.
The precise dimensions.
Right.
The multiple levels.
Yep.
And rooms, even specifying the pitch coating for waterproofing.
Right.
It feels like more than just practical building advice.
Absolutely. You've hit on something important. The meticulous nature of these instructions suggests a deeper significance.
Okay.
This wasn't just a casual construction project.
Right.
This was a divinely ordained mission
Okay.
of survival and renewal,
Right.
imbued with symbolic meaning
Okay.
that we'll explore later.
And of course, it wasn't just Noah and his family on board.
No.
The ark had to house this mind-boggling
Oh, yeah.
array of animals.
It's crazy.
Pairs of every kind, male and female.
Talk about a challenge.
Right.
And here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
The text differentiates between clean and unclean animals, instructing Noah to bring 7 pairs of each clean animal,
Okay.
but only 1 pair of each unclean animal.
Interesting.
This distinction might seem odd at first glance,
Yeah.
but it actually offers a glimpse into the cultural and religious practices of the time.
So Noah, armed with his faith
Yeah.
and incredibly detailed blueprints,
Yeah.
constructs this massive ark, gathers his family, and somehow manages to assemble animals
Right.
from every corner of the earth.
Yeah.
And then the flood hits.
Oh, yeah.
And not just a little drizzle.
Right? The biblical description of the flood is nothing short of awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
For 40 days and 40 nights.
Oh, wow.
Rain poured relentlessly,
Okay.
but it went beyond rain.
Okay.
The text vividly describes underground springs erupting,
Wow.
and the windows of heaven flung open,
Wow.
unleashing this torrent of water that engulfed the entire world.
It paints a truly apocalyptic picture.
It does.
Mountains submerge the earth, completely swallowed by the floodwaters. I wonder what it must have been like inside the ark during that time.
While the Bible doesn't go into great detail about daily life aboard the ark,
Okay.
it emphasizes the safety and security found within its walls.
Okay.
Imagine while the world outside was being reshaped by this cataclysmic event,
Wow.
the ark remained a sanctuary,
Right.
a floating haven for Noah,
Oh,
his
yeah.
family,
Mhm.
and all these animals.
It must have been a surreal experience.
Yeah.
The constant sounds of the storm,
Right.
the creaking of the ark, the knowledge that they were the only survivors
It's heavy.
in a world transformed
Right.
into a watery abyss.
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
It is.
The ark represents this tiny pocket of life,
Yeah.
persevering amidst unimaginable destruction.
Right.
But it's also a symbol of hope.
Okay.
A reminder that even in the face of utter devastation,
Uh-huh.
the possibility of renewal remains.
So after 150 long days,
Right.
the floodwaters finally began to recede.
Yeah.
The ark eventually came to rest on Mount Ararat, a landmark that continues to fascinate people to this day.
Absolutely.
But before stepping back onto dry land,
Yeah.
Noah had to be sure it was truly safe.
Right.
He sent out a raven,
Okay.
but it just flew back and forth,
Yeah.
unable to find a place to land.
Couldn't find a perch.
Right. Then Noah sent out a dove.
Okay.
Initially, it returned having found nowhere to perch.
Right.
But the second time he released the dove,
Uh-huh.
it came back carrying an olive leaf,
Oh, wow.
a sign that life was returning to the devastated world.
What a beautiful symbol of hope
Right.
emerging from the wreckage.
And the third time the dove was sent out, it didn't return at all.
That's right.
It had found its home in the renewed world.
That detail always strikes me as particularly poignant.
Yeah.
It perfectly encapsulates the sense of hope and possibility that permeates this part of the story.
Okay.
The floodwaters receded.
Right.
The earth began to dry.
Yeah.
And life gradually reemerged.
Finally, God gives Noah the signal to leave the ark.
Right?
Can you imagine the feeling of
Yeah.
stepping out onto dry land
Oh, yeah.
after all those months?
It must have been an incredibly profound moment.
Right.
A rebirth, not just for Noah and his family, but for all of creation.
And Noah, overcome with gratitude,
Yeah.
immediately built an altar
Right.
and offered sacrifices to God.
Powerful expression of thanks for their survival. Right. And a recognition of God's power and mercy.
This act of worship highlights
Right.
the significant shift that had taken place.
Yeah.
The old world, corrupted and broken, had been washed clean, and a new covenant was being established between God and humanity. And what better symbol
Oh, yeah.
for that covenant than the rainbow?
It's beautiful.
It's fascinating how something that once represented God's wrath
Right.
during the flood
Mm-hmm.
was transformed into a symbol of hope and promise.
You're absolutely right. That rainbow became a visible reminder
Right.
of God's commitment to never again destroy the world by flood.
Wow.
It's a powerful image that continues to resonate with us today.
So the flood is over,
Right.
the covenant is established,
Mhm.
and Noah and his family are free to start rebuilding their lives.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
the story doesn't end there.
No, it doesn't.
There's that intriguing incident
Yeah.
with Noah's son Ham.
Yes. This episode adds a layer of complexity to the narrative. Oh, yeah.
Bringing us face to face with the imperfections that persist,
All right.
even after such a dramatic display of God's grace.
Okay.
It seems Noah, after planting a vineyard, indulged a little too freely in the fruits of his labor.
The text says he became drunk
Yeah.
and ended up unconscious and unclothed in his tent.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the image of righteous Noah we've seen so far.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Here we have this man chosen by God
Right.
to lead humanity into a new era,
Right.
and yet he's still susceptible to very human failings.
And it's his son, Ham, who stumbles upon him in this state.
Right.
Instead of discreetly covering his father,
Yeah.
Ham calls his brothers, Shem and Japheth, to witness the scene.
But Shem and Japheth, demonstrating a deep respect for their father,
Okay.
choose a different course of action.
Sure.
Without looking upon Noah's nakedness, they cover him with a cloak.
This seemingly small act
Right.
had huge repercussions.
It's Noah, upon learning of Ham's actions,
Yeah.
cursed Ham's son Canaan while blessing Shem and Japheth.
This incident opens up a whole new avenue of questions. It makes
Yeah.
you think about family dynamics,
Right.
respect, and the long-lasting consequences of our actions,
Yeah.
even those that seem private or insignificant.
It also shines a light on the complexities of human nature.
Yeah.
Even after experiencing such a profound event,
Right.
imperfections and conflicts persist.
It certainly challenges the idea
Yeah.
of a simple, straightforward, happily ever after ending.
It reminds us that the journey towards righteousness and a better world is ongoing,
Yeah,
even for those who have experienced God's grace
Right.
in such a dramatic way.
absolutely.
It seems there's much more to uncover
Oh, yeah.
about the flood and its aftermath.
You're right. The story of Noah's Ark is a springboard for deeper exploration, a journey through layers of symbolism and interpretation
Right.
that continue to intrigue and challenge us.
We've just scratched the surface, and there's so much more to explore.
Yeah, definitely.
And the symbolism of the ark itself is a great place to start.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one.
We often think of it simply as a lifeboat,
Right.
but it's so much more than that, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm really interested to hear your take on the ark's deeper meanings.
Yeah,
What kind of symbolic weight does this vessel carry
right.
beyond its practical function?
Well, on one level, it represents the preservation of life,
Okay.
a sanctuary amidst the chaos of the flood.
Right.
But it can also be viewed as a microcosm of creation itself.
So like a miniature version of the world God was protecting.
Exactly, with its carefully chosen inhabitants representing all of creation.
Right.
The Ark embodies this idea of interconnectedness.
Okay.
It's a powerful reminder that all living things are part of a delicate web, even amidst a story of destruction and renewal.
It also makes me think about the concept of divine selection. The fact that not everyone was chosen to be on the ark.
Right.
Only Noah and his family, those deemed righteous, were granted a place on that vessel.
It's true.
It raises some difficult questions, doesn't it?
It certainly does. The Ark prompts us to consider the criteria for judgment and salvation.
Okay.
Why were some chosen and others left behind?
Right.
It's a question that has sparked theological debate for centuries. And as you delve deeper into the source material, you'll find these questions resonate on a personal level, too.
It also ties into this idea of new beginnings, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure.
The ark wasn't just about escaping destruction.
Right.
It was about carrying the seeds of a new world into the future.
Precisely. The Ark symbolizes hope.
Okay.
The possibility of renewal even after a catastrophic event.
Right.
And that resonates deeply with us,
Yeah.
even today as we face our own set of challenges and uncertainties.
You mentioned earlier that flood myths exist in other cultures, too.
Right.
Are there any connections between those stories and the biblical account of Noah's Ark?
It's fascinating to explore the parallels, actually.
Okay.
Flood myths are surprisingly common across diverse cultures around the world.
Yeah.
You find them in ancient Mesopotamia, in Hindu traditions, even in Native American folklore.
Wow.
From the Epic of Gilgamesh to the Hindu Puranas,
Right.
these stories depict great floods that wipe out humanity,
Okay.
often as a result of divine displeasure with human actions.
Wow. So this idea of a catastrophic flood wiping out the world isn't unique to the Bible.
No, not at all.
That's incredible.
It really is. These parallels have led some scholars to suggest that there might be a common historical kernel underlying these stories.
Okay.
Perhaps a major flood event that left an indelible mark
Interesting.
on the collective memory of humanity.
Wow.
It sparks the imagination, doesn't it?
It certainly does. But of course, there are also those who interpret the biblical account literally,
Yeah.
believing that a global flood did occur exactly as described in Genesis.
Yes, and even within that view, there are a variety of perspectives. Some believe the Ark literally carried all the species of animals in the world, while others propose more nuanced explanations.
Okay.
For instance, some suggest that the flood was regional rather than global,
Okay.
or that the kinds of animals mentioned represent broader categories rather than every single species.
It's a good reminder that interpreting these ancient texts is a complex process.
For sure.
There's room for different viewpoints.
Absolutely.
And ongoing exploration.
Right.
What's important is that we engage with these stories thoughtfully and respectfully, recognizing the diversity of beliefs that surround them.
I completely agree. It's through these discussions and explorations that we can gain a deeper understanding, not just of the text itself, but of our own beliefs and how these ancient stories continue to shape our worldviews.
So we've talked about the ark as a symbol and the historical context of the flood narrative.
Right.
Now, I'd like to shift our focus to Noah himself.
Okay.
What kind of a man was he?
The Bible describes Noah as a righteous man,
Okay.
blameless among the people of his time.
Right.
And he walked faithfully with God.
Okay.
He stands in stark contrast to the wickedness that surrounded him.
He almost sounds superhuman in his righteousness.
Well, it's important to remember that the text is highlighting his faithfulness within a deeply corrupt society.
Okay.
He's not necessarily portrayed as perfect,
Right.
but rather as someone who stayed true to his relationship with God,
Okay.
even when it seemed everyone else had abandoned their faith.
So he exemplifies unwavering faith amidst a world losing its way.
Right, and his obedience is another key aspect.
Okay.
Imagine being instructed to build an enormous ark
Right.
when there's not a cloud in the sky. Noah trusted God's instructions, even when they seemed improbable or even illogical.
His resilience is also striking.
Oh, for sure.
Can you imagine the challenges of living through that experience?
I can't even imagine.
Being cooped up in the ark for months on end.
Right.
With all those animals.
Those animals.
It must have tested his patience and resolve.
It makes you wonder what life on that ark was really like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The sounds, the smells, the constant close quarters.
Right.
Noah's story is a testament to the power of faith. to sustain us through incredibly difficult times.
And then, of course, there's that incident with Noah and his sons after the flood.
Right.
This episode presents a different side of Noah.
It does.
One that is far from perfect.
Right. He plants a vineyard, celebrates a bit too enthusiastically, and ends up passed out unclothed in his tent.
This episode is often viewed as a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even those considered righteous are not immune to human weakness.
Exactly. Even after experiencing God's grace in such a profound way, Noah was still susceptible to very human failings.
It adds complexity to his character, doesn't it?
It does.
He's not a flawless hero,
right,
but a human being grappling with flaws and vulnerabilities.
Exactly.
It challenges our assumptions and makes the story feel much more relatable.
Absolutely. And it also sparks conversations about forgiveness and reconciliation.
Right.
Even after this incident, God continued to uphold his covenant with Noah and humanity.
Okay.
It's a powerful reminder that God's grace extends even to our imperfections.
It emphasizes that we are all works in progress.
Right.
Capable of stumbling even after we've experienced moments of great faith and obedience. There's a sense of hope in that, don't you think?
I agree. It suggests that our journeys are not defined by our mistakes,
right,
but by our willingness to learn and grow from them.
But now I'm curious about the story's legacy.
Right.
It's like how it continues to resonate with us even today.
It's remarkable, isn't it? This ancient narrative has woven its way into art, literature, and even popular culture. You see it everywhere, from ancient cave paintings to modern-day movies.
Yeah, I'm immediately thinking of those classic depictions of the Ark.
Oh, yeah.
Like a massive wooden vessel, overflowing with animals perched on a mountaintop as the floodwaters recede.
Right.
They're such iconic images.
Those visual representations really capture the drama and scale of the event, highlighting the Ark as this beacon of hope amidst unimaginable chaos. You can almost feel the weight of the story.
Yeah.
The sense of a world on the brink of destruction and the fragile hope for a new beginning.
And it's not just visual art.
Yeah.
The story has also inspired countless literary works, from poems and plays to novels and children's books.
Think about the medieval English mystery play Noah's Flood. It's a fascinating example. It blends the biblical narrative with this almost whimsical folk humor, bringing the Ark's construction and the challenges of gathering the animals to life in a really unique way.
It's incredible to think about this ancient story being reimagined and reinterpreted across different art forms.
Yeah.
And throughout history.
It really is.
Clearly, it speaks to something universal in the human experience.
Absolutely. And it's not confined to high art and literature.
Right.
The story has also found its way into popular culture, movies, TV shows, even video games.
Right.
It's a testament to the enduring power of this narrative.
Yeah, I'm remembering that big-budget Hollywood film from a few years back.
Oh, yeah.
It was full of special effects and those dramatic, sweeping scenes of the flood.
And of course, there are the animated versions for children, which often focus on the animals and the lighter side of the story.
Right.
It's fascinating how the same story can be adapted and presented in so many different ways, appealing to such a wide range of audiences.
It's clear that the story of Noah's Ark continues to capture our imaginations.
Yeah.
But beyond its entertainment value, I'm wondering about its relevance to contemporary issues.
Right.
You mentioned climate change and environmental ethics in our last segment. Can you expand on that a bit?
Of course, when you think about the flood narrative, it serves as a powerful reminder of the destructive forces of nature and the fragility of our planet.
Okay.
It raises questions about our responsibility to care for the environment and the potential consequences of our actions.
It's hard not to draw parallels to the environmental challenges we're facing today. Rising sea levels, extreme weather events, the threat of ecological collapse.
Yeah.
It feels like we're living in a time when the consequences of our choices are becoming increasingly apparent.
You're right. The story can be seen as a cautionary tale.
Okay.
Prompting us to examine how our actions impact the natural world and the future of life on Earth. Are we as a species repeating the mistakes of those who lived before the flood? It's a question worth pondering.
It also emphasizes the interconnectedness of all living things.
It does.
Just as the Ark carried a diverse array of species, we need to recognize that we are all part of this intricate web of life.
Right.
The choices we make affect not only ourselves, but also countless other species and the delicate balance of ecosystems.
That's a crucial point. The story calls for a more holistic and ethical approach to our relationship with the environment, one that acknowledges the profound interconnectedness of human well-being and planetary health.
So we've talked about the environmental aspects.
Right.
But you also mentioned the broader human quest for meaning.
Uh-huh.
How does the Noah story speak to that deeper longing?
At its core, I think the story offers a message of hope and resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity.
Right.
It reminds us that even after devastation, even after loss and suffering, there is always the possibility of renewal, of starting anew.
Okay.
It's a powerful message for anyone facing difficult times, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It encourages us to hold on to faith.
Right.
Even when the world seems to be falling apart around us.
It's true.
There's something deeply comforting about that.
And it speaks to our innate capacity to rebuild, to create a better future.
Okay.
Even after experiencing hardship, we all have the potential to be like Noah, to weather the storms and emerge ready to create something new and meaningful.
The ark itself becomes a symbol of that resilience.
Yeah.
The determination to carry on and create a new world from the wreckage of the old. It's a powerful image that transcends time and speaks to the human spirit's capacity for renewal.
You've hit the nail on the head. This message of hope and renewal is something that resonates across cultures and throughout time.
Right.
It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there is always potential for a fresh start. It's a message we all need to hear from time to time.
This deep dive into the story of Noah's Ark has been an incredible journey.
Yeah, it has.
We've uncovered so much from the symbolism and historical context to its enduring impact on art, literature, and popular culture. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of this story.
And we've only scratched the surface. This story is a wellspring of insight, and I encourage you to continue exploring the source material, asking your own questions and forming your own interpretations.
It's a story that invites us to reflect on our own values, our relationship with the natural world, and our responsibility to shape a better future for ourselves and for generations to come.
Well said.
And as we wrap up our deep dive into Noah's Ark, I'd like to leave our listeners with a final thought.
Okay.
The next time you see a rainbow, remember the promise. It represents a promise of hope, renewal, and the enduring possibility of a fresh start. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.